There are 5 quiet mistakes first-time buyers make that get their offers rejected, and most of them have nothing to do with price. Because if it was just about money, then this, $950,000 offer wouldn't have gotten rejected for another at the same exact dollar amount. Make even one of these mistakes, and you could do everything else right and still lose the house that you wanted. But the good news about these silent mistakes is they're all avoidable. And I know this because I'm a mortgage expert that's helped over 500 families get to the closing table. And the first one, almost nobody knows exists. Let me show you. So check this study out that was done by Redfin in 2025. So they surveyed a lot of agents on why deals fell apart. And the number one reason was, inspection issues, which you don't really have control over. But then the number 2 reason is almost 3 out of 10 deals was the buyer's financing falling through. And here's the thing about that. A good listing agent knows these numbers better than you do. So when your offer comes in, they're not just thinking about the price. They're thinking about this one important question. Is the buyer actually going to close? So if yes, I'm going to look great, like a superstar. The seller is going to send me even more referrals. And if not, I'm going to have to go back on the market 3 weeks from now and look dumb in front of the sellers, and I might not get even more referrals. So every single mistake that I'm about to show you answers that question for them. So the first quiet mistake is your mortgage person should be calling the listing agent the same day your offer goes in. So let me explain why this is so powerful. When you submit an offer, in your head, it feels like a sealed envelope, right? You hand it over and now you just wait and hope. But here's what actually is happening on the other side. That listing agent is sitting there with a stack of offers and they're nervous about every single one of them because their job is to bring the seller a deal that actually closes. That's the key. So picture this. Your offer comes in and 30 minutes later, their phone rings. It's your lender, a real human being who says, hey, I've got John's, file here. I've personally reviewed their file and I'm backing this with my 200 plus 5-star reviews and brand. Here's my direct cell. Call me anytime if you have any questions. Now, all of a sudden, that piece of paper in that stack is not just a piece of paper. And to drive this point home even further, there's a survey done by Inman Intel, pretty much 3 out of 4 agents. What they look for in lenders is experience and reliability in obtaining funding. So this is why if your mortgage person can call the listing agent and it at least gives them a little bit more confidence. And guess what? It's completely free to do so. It doesn't cost anything unless the mortgage person is like on Cricket Wireless and doesn't have an unlimited phone call plan, which is really weird, but it is free to do so. They can even send an email, which is also free. So have them be proactive. And the worst case is you just did it and nothing changed. And by doing this, you're the buyer with a real person standing behind you, and that's certainty. And that certainty is the one thing that sellers actually want. So here's the problem though. Most lenders never make that call. Some because they're either too busy, some because they're working hundreds of files, AKA they're understaffed. That's more of a business issue, an operations issue. And then you're just a number to them. And you, the buyer, you don't even know this is a thing that you can ask for, right? But you're watching this video, so now you know. So here's the fix. When you pick your loan person, loan officer, mortgage lender, or whatever, ask them point blank, will you call the listing agent the day that we submit an offer? If they look at you confused, that tells you everything you need to know. But if they say yes, and that's normal to their process, then you got a winner. And real quick, every single one of these mistakes comes down to one thing. Do you look like the buyer who's actually going to close or the one who's a flight risk? That's exactly why I built the free homebuyer readiness quiz. It takes less than 30 seconds. There's no credit pull, and it tells you if your file's ready to go or if you're a flight risk on the other side of the table. And if there's a gap, I send you the exact videos to fix it before you even write an offer. It's completely free. It's my gift to you. Link down below. All right, let's get to number 2. So this next one costs you nothing to fix, and it might be the sneakiest one in the whole list. It's your offer expiration window. Now, every offer you write should have a deadline, the time the seller basically has to say yes, no, or maybe even counter. And most buyers or even agents will default to being polite. So, hey, let's give them a week to think it over. That's the wrong move. So I'll give you an analogy to really make sure it sticks. So imagine you're the seller and 2 people want to take you out on a date, same restaurant and things like that, right? So one of them says, hey, let me know, if in the next 7 days, if you want to go. The other one says, hey, I already made the reservation for tomorrow. I know you like this restaurant at 7. Is that good with you? Are you in? So who sounds more sure? Probably this person over here. And who sounds like they actually want the date for real? Probably this person over here. And that's exactly what your expiration window is telling the seller. So the longer your expiration window tells the seller, hey, I'm looking around, and if something better pops up this weekend, I'm just gonna bail on the offer. So the shorter window says, hey, I found it. This is the one. I'm done shopping. Now here's where I wanna be straight with you. Because I've done a lot of these deals, a tight window is not a magic trick you use every single time. So on a hot, well-priced home, with the line out the door, there's like hundreds of people showing it, conviction and certainty wins. So a tight window also will help you with that certainty. But slamming a 4-hour deadline on the seller can come off as very pushy, or it just might get ignored. So just like asking someone on a date, there's the right amount of time to show you're committed, but not too pushy. That's the way you show the sellers that you're serious on paper. So this next one, you send before you even write the offer. And it's the one that makes the listing agent quietly move your name to the bottom of the pile. All right, this next mistake I see all the time, especially with buyers who are trying to move fast in a competitive market. And I've made this mistake too. Back in 2021, when rates were super low and everyone was bidding on homes, we saw this home that had 2 guest homes on the property. And I was like, yes, cash flow, let's go. Everything looked great in the photos, but you can't see in the photos is that guest house was like the Leaning Tower of Pisa because of foundational issues. So the listing agent required everyone to view the property, right? Now, obviously, they didn't disclose why the guest home was leaning over, but they just said, hey, I need you to see the property before anyone submits an offer. And here's the video of my agent walking the property for me. So the property was obviously very messy. And the second guest unit, what you can really see was really not a guest unit. The video you're seeing is the bottom unit, which was maybe 150 square feet. So, good on the listing agent requiring us to view the property because, I was very gung-ho about it. I was like, come on, let's get it accepted. We'll just fly out on the weekend and we'll view the property later and it'll be no problem at all. But the listing agent knew that every buyer should have an accurate picture of the property before putting an offer in, which I'm really glad we did because we lowered our offer price to capture the foundation issues. And really the property only had 1 guest house. So let's use the dating analogy again, but let's call it online dating, right? So the photos always look amazing, perfect lighting, perfect angles, but you never agree to marry somebody off the profile pictures, right? And the sellers know that. So when the offer comes in from someone who's never set foot on the house, the listing agent's gut reaction is, this buyer's gonna walk through the house during the inspection, see something they didn't expect, get cold feet, and then back out. And then guess what? The house has to go back on the market. They look dumb for accepting an offer like that. And they might not even get referrals from the sellers. So even if your offer is strong on paper, the sight unseen part makes you look like a flight risk, okay? So given 2 similar offers, the seller takes the buyer who already toured and is already locked in every single time, right? So please be mindful that you wanna see the property, or if you can't see the property, that you have a friend that tours it that you trust, view the property as well, because they're gonna be able to tell you what the pictures don't tell you. So everything I've told you is about doing less of the wrong thing. This next one is a little different. So this thing is the buyers spend the most time and the most, I would say, effort and heart on. And a lot of time it gets thrown straight in the trash before the seller ever sees it. All right, so we're 3 mistakes deep in now, and you're clearly serious about not being the offer that gets rejected. So this is why I built the free homebuyer readiness quiz, so you know exactly which mistakes is hiding in plain sight. We can tackle those, or if there's any other constraints in your buying system, and I give you customized videos to solve that. So it's 30 seconds, no credit pull or anything like that. It's my free gift to you. Check it out in the link down below, and let's get to number 4. So this next one might ruffle some feathers here because a lot of people swear by it. It's the buyer's love letter or the letter to the sellers. So you've probably heard the advice, write a heartfelt letter to the sellers, tell them how much you love the home, how you can, picture raising your kids there, and they'll pick you out of the goodness of their heart. And first-time buyers will spend a lot of time on it. And guess what? Sometimes it gets thrown out in the trash. Because here's the problem. A lot of brokerages now actually ban these letters. They tell their agents, hey, just throw them out. And the reason is because of fair housing liability. So the moment the seller learns the buyer's race, religion, or they've got 4 kids, that opens the door to a discrimination claim if they pick a different offer. So think about what just happened. You spent an hour on the one thing that might get tossed in the trash while completely ignoring the stuff that actually moves the needle. So here's the fix. So we're gonna be using the winning offer formula that I cover on this channel. Price plus convenience divided by speed. So we wanna take that energy with that letter and then move it towards strategizing with your realtor and your mortgage team to figure out, how can I make this a more convenient offer for the sellers? And then how can I make this a faster offer for the sellers? It'll usually be things like shortening your inspection window, right? That you have time to do your due diligence. Get your loan officer to make that call that we talked about in number 1. And maybe we put down a stronger earnest money deposit so you have real skin in the game. By the way, this is the most underrated hack here: stronger earnest money deposit. Now remember, your earnest money deposit is something that you send to the escrow or title company while you do your due diligence, right? So usually you're going to have contingencies which protects your deposit. Usually it's like inspection, appraisal, and loan. Those are the main ones. So if you decide to back out, you're still within your protection period, so your deposit is protected. And pro tip, if you have the money, your earnest money deposit should be as high as possible, because that's going to stand out compared to someone who has $1,000 deposit. They're not like really serious. But someone who puts $50,000, crazy I know, is going to stand out compared to all the other offers, and it's free to do so if you have the money. So the 5 types of love languages, like words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch, I think, right? And don't crucify me in the comments if I got one of them wrong. So here's the 6th one for the sellers. It's certainty. That's the one you want to solve for when you're putting an offer in. So that's 4 mistakes so far. And this last one is the most well-known mistake on the list. You've probably heard of it before, but stay with me, because I'm going to show you an actual pre-approval letter that landed on my desk. And once you see the numbers on it, you're going to understand why even the buyer who thought they had a real pre-approval letter would have got it rejected. All right, so what is this? A fake pre-approval? Let me explain. A pre-qualification is where you tell your lender you make this amount, you have this amount saved up. They spit out a number, nobody really checks anything. A pre-approval letter is where a real person reviewed your pay stubs, your W-2s, tax returns, bank statements, and verified, you're actually going to be able to get this loan based on the information they have. Now here's where it gets real. This right here is an actual California purchase contract. Now, in a different state, it looks similar-ish. You're going to have different fields, but it'll look something like this. Again, this is the document that the offers get written on. And see this tiny little box? We'll have to zoom in a little bit, right? So in that little section, it literally has 3 check boxes: pre-qualification, pre-approval, and fully underwritten pre-approval. So when your offer comes in, the listing agent looks right at this area in the box, and imagine, again, you're the sellers and you've got 10 offers in front of you. 9 of them have the pre-approval box checked, and yours has the pre-qualification box checked, right? So yours doesn't even make the first cut because it's the lowest tier of the pre-approval. And most of you probably don't even know that box existed. And here's where it gets spicier. Even getting the pre-approval box checked doesn't always mean the pre-approval is solid. So let me show you why. So this is a real pre-approval letter from a different lender. I redacted obviously the personal stuff when this came across my desk. They were, quote, approved for 1.8 million roughly, and a loan amount of 1.125 million. And then this next thing is important, and we're going to go over this later. They were pre-approved for a conventional loan. And then I also want you to see this. It also says incomes verified, assets verified, credit verified. Looks rock solid, right? Now, let's just do some quick math on what that house would actually cost you every single month. So on that loan, let's just assume, a typical interest rate at the time of recording this. Let's call it principal and interest will be about $7,000 a month. Property taxes will be around $1,850 using 1.25% of the value. Homeowners insurance, let's just call it $300. So all in, you're looking around $9,000 a month, roughly. Now, here's the part that stopped me. This buyer's income, the income on their tax returns, worked out to be about $9,100 a month. And this is before taxes. So the payment on the house is basically the entire income before taxes, before groceries, before gas, before anything else. Now, to be fair, there are programs where you can use what's called like asset depletion and different sources of income and stuff like that. But what you can see on the pre-approval letter, like I mentioned, is this is a conventional loan and they follow certain conventional income calculations. So if you do the income calculation, it's 100% of their debt to income, meaning all your income before taxes goes to the mortgage. That makes absolutely no sense. And you watching this video, you're probably like, wait a minute. So I see on my pay stubs, I make $5,000 or whatever your amount is. Uncle Sam takes their cut. Maybe I make $3,000 net in a month, and this person's paying $5,000 in my situation, right? If I were to translate it, that's crazy, right? So what I'm showing you here is not all pre-approval letters are created equally, and not everyone understands the guidelines well, especially in bigger institutions where they just shoot for volume and numbers, not actual brand reputation. So the reason why this is a quiet mistake is you might think you have a rock solid pre-approval, but in reality, you might not. So at first, whenever you're going through this process, I always recommend use common sense first, okay? If I'm pre-approved for 1.775 million or whatever the million is, or thousands, and then my mortgage equals my tax returns, that's probably not gonna be a good thing. Now, again, there's gonna be different ways you can calculate income, but this is where your mortgage advisor is gonna figure out what's the best plan for you. So fundamentally, all of these quiet mistakes answer this one question. Is this buyer actually going to close? Or am I going to have to go back in the market 3 weeks looking like I picked the wrong offer? So if you understand, this framework, it will help you win those offers because you deserve to win, and let's make it a good year for you guys. Also, YouTube is recommending this video right over here. I think you'll like it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.